That night there, what time did it start? Y'all didn't start about 6 or 7.
What's that?
That night you was here at 4 in the morning.
No, we started at 5. Closed at midnight. So
That means 11 hours. Oh my God.
Who was superintendent
you
then?
remember if that was Bill Day?
Good evening. Today is Monday, January 29th, 2024. This is a meeting of the Cherokee County School Board of Trustees. At this time, I'd like for everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the board agenda. We have a motion that we approve the board agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda to include a 45-minute or less executive session to discuss personnel matters only.
We have a motion to add executive session to the board agenda with a limitation of 45 minutes. Do we have a second for that, for the discussion of personnel issues?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion regarding the amended agenda? All in favor of adopting an amended agenda with the addition of personnel, executive session for personnel matters with a limitation of 45 minutes. Looking at the board agenda, we would place that prior to the superintendent's report. All in favor, show of hands. That is unanimous. The next item we have on the agenda is approval of board minutes dated December 11th, 2023. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes from December 11th, 2023?
I make a motion we accept the board minutes dated December 11th, 2023.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? A show of hands for approval of those minutes. That is unanimous. Next is the approval of the board minutes from January 22nd, 2024. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes from January 22nd?
I make a motion to accept the minutes for January the 22nd, 2024.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor,
Mr.
show of
Chair.
hand. Yes.
I think there might have been a typo there. We just need to correct there toward that. And pardon me a second. I'm trying to pull it up now, but
Okay.
I think they
what I
had Crystal
remembered.
Dawkins instead of Shippey.
It's really what it is. I just say it was Miss Shippey's name was down as Miss Dawkins. I think it was there toward the end of it.
So we have a correction to the minutes. Any other further discussion? Okay, show of hands with the approval with the correction as stated by Mr. Blackwell. Show of hands for accepting. That is unanimous. Next item is honors, accomplishments, and commendations. Dr. Fall.
Hang on 1 second, just making a note to change that.
Good evening. Project Surge is a transition program for students with moderate disabilities during their final year of high school. This program takes real work experiences to the next level as our students are actually getting to intern at our local hospital. During just our second year in the program, the South Carolina Division of Career and Development has awarded this program as the outstanding transition program in the state. This program would not be a success without the partnerships between Cherokee County School District, Cherokee Medical Center, and South Carolina Vocational Rehabilitation. Tonight, we would like to recognize the integral people making this program the success that it is. And some of the folks in this couldn't be here tonight with the reschedule, so I'm gonna still say their names, and then those that are here, will come forward. Cody Butts is the president of Cherokee Medical Center Project. Tim Fagan, go on up. Tim's the chief nursing officer at Cherokee Medical Center. Kamisha is the skills trainer for vocational rehabilitation. Mika Duncan is the transition counselor for vocational rehabilitation. Alice Porter, she is our project search instructor. Catherine is our transition specialist in OBRA project search. And the students' internships would not be possible without their department managers. Several of those couldn't be here as well, but I will still say their names. Eugene Case, Environmental Services. Ms. Shanice Dawkins, Medical Records. Melissa Kessler, Patient Access Services. Lori Upgraff, Director of Nursing. Ann Wolf, Food Services. Michelle Young, Materials Management. Sharon Moore, Imaging Manager. And Christina Estes, Clinical Education. Thank you guys so much for this program.
Ms. Dawkins, I asked Lieutenant, when we're all done, if you could get those ones over to the folks.
Sure,
absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
We've all seen the wonderful successes in our local adult education program, but it's so satisfying when the state recognizes this program as successful as we do. If you've never had the opportunity to attend the adult education graduation, I recommend you give yourself a treat and attend. You will not regret it. Recently, the adult education program won 3 state awards and had 3 staff members receive service awards. We'll begin with the program awards. Adult High School Diploma Completer Award. The Adult High School Diploma Completers Award is presented to programs with the highest percentage of awarded high school diplomas. Integrated Education and Training Award. The Integrated Education and Training Award is presented to programs with students enrolled in an approved integrated education and training program who made measurable skill gains while participating in the program. The program must be approved by the South Carolina Office of Adult Education and implemented by the local adult education program. The Workplace Literacy Award. The Workplace Literacy Award is presented to programs with students enrolled in a workplace literacy program who made measurable skills gains while participating in the program. The program must be approved by the South Carolina Office of Adult Education and implemented by the local program. The Hall of Fame Award. The Hall of Fame Award is presented to adult education members who have the following milestones with adult education: 10, 20, or 30 years of service. First of all, Stacy Sprouse, 20 years of service. Hope Green, 10 years of service. Crystal Apple Award recognitions. In the December Administrator of the Month, Mr. Michael Bender. Michael Bender has been the principal at Blacksburg Primary School for 5 years. He works tirelessly every day to make this school the best in the district. He also works hard every day to make the students feel special and always has positive things to say to each student. He is very passionate about the kids and is their #1 advocate. I wish all administrators had his dedication, determination, and passion for educating children. He has worked very hard to create a culture where staff can feel free to go to him with any concerns or suggestions at any time. Congratulations, Mr. Bender. Miss Corey McCants, Dr. Corey McCants, she is one of my school psychologists, and she couldn't be here tonight, but I'm going to go ahead and recognize her. Dr. McCants is wonderful to work with. She is very professional with our teachers, offers suggestions for instruction and intervention, and gives suggestions when needed. During meetings, she is wonderful at explaining everything to parents and answering any questions they may have. Most importantly, she is so kind to each of our students. She always smiles and gets to know them and their interests. Cherokee County is lucky to have her. Congratulations, Dr. McCants. And our support staff of the month, we're going to try to get him back. He wasn't available to be here tonight. We're going to try to get him next month. Substitute of the month, Laverne Smith. Laverne's not here? Okay. We'll try to get her back in next month. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank all of you for making an impact on our students. Any board members want to make any comments?
Just congratulations and thank you for a job well done, especially at our adult education. I'm just always so pleased to see the job that they do down there, just so wonderful and so hands-on with the students there. I appreciate you so very much, and I thank each of you ladies for what you do.
And this is an opportunity for those who received awards. If you would like to leave now, that is absolutely fine as we progress toward the remaining part of the meeting. Next item on the agenda is a school board policy, BEDH. Dr. Paul.
We have one person submit, Ms. Karmiski.
So with public participation, allotted 3 minutes, I want to make sure that we confine the comments to matters germane to the business of the board, district and school-related topics, refrain from making personal complaints against or using individual names of district employees or students, refrain from words or statements which, from their usual construction of common acceptance, are construed as insults or tend to breach the peace or incite violence. Refrain from making comments regarding any pending student or employee discipline or grievance matters, and refrain from profanity, obscenity, vulgarity, or other breach of respect.
Thank you. I would like to say something just for beginning, what you said, adult education program. I love that program. If you don't know, I am a high school diploma recipient through that program. So through them, I'm able to be here as a teacher.
Wonderful.
So that's close to my heart. So I'm a little shaky tonight, that kind of touched my heart. I want to say thank you for allowing me to speak, and I want to tell you that I appreciate you. I think I've mentioned this before, and I'll mention it again, coming close to contract times, and I want to talk to you about teacher needs, but I want to say to you that I appreciate you. It never ceases to amaze me, the things that I read on social media the day after a board meeting that are so far from the truth, it's almost laughable. And I think, you have no idea. But I realize they have no idea because there's a disconnect. They're not at these meetings, and they're getting not just sometimes second, but third-hand information. And where there's a disconnect, there's a lack of communication, and things can sometimes get misconstrued. And that's what I want to talk to you tonight. I think that, I appreciate you, and I know we don't always agree on everything, but I think there is a disconnect. Because I'm a teacher and I'm in that classroom daily, I see things that you're not able to see. So I'm here tonight to tell you that with it being contract time, my social media is inundated with districts that are having job fairs and recruitment fairs, and they're saying we can offer our teachers this, we can offer our teachers that. I think Cherokee County is an excellent district, and I think that we have a lot to offer anyone who is looking to go into education. But there is one area that we need to work on, and across the board, I've spoken to teachers from elementary to high school level, from new to veteran. And the one thing they're telling me they need is they need their time back. When I entered this district in 2006, I believe was the year I came in, I had the same amount of planning time that I have now, but I have less time to get done what needs to be done. And I'm going to give you 2 examples of that, and then I'll take a seat. Example number 1, this last Saturday, I was at home and working in the living room on my computer, and my husband looked at me and he said, "Babe, you need to stop." And I said, "What?" He said, "You need to talk to somebody because you are too stressed and you can't get done what you need to get done." I had not said a word, but he knew what was going on from the look on my face. He said, "Shut it down." And I shut it down. And what I had been doing for 1 hour was working on a statement to insert into my lesson plan. I knew what I was going to do. I knew how it needed to be done. I knew how my students would assess themselves and figure out if they had accomplished what needed to be accomplished. But I was spending time trying to put it into a specific format to make it the way it needed to be so we didn't get docked points when they walked through our school. Then, fast forward a little past that, last Monday. Last Monday, I got up and I went to school and was there at 6:30 a.m. Now, that was because I had not gotten everything done the week before that I needed to get done, and I planned to do it over the weekend, but I got sick over the weekend, so I couldn't. I had to go in a little early to get everything done. I go into work at 6:30 in the morning. I get the things done that need to be done. It's time to greet my students. They come in. We have 2 classes, and it's time for my planning period. Only I don't get to plan. I don't get to call parents and brag on some of the good things I've seen. I don't get to call parents and ask for support where I need it in the classroom. Instead, I have to attend a meeting. I leave that meeting, and thank you, because if you had not voted last year to put that 30 minutes in unencumbered time, I would not have gotten to eat last Monday. Because that 30 minutes gave me time to eat before I had to go teach another class, then go from there into my lunch duty, and then from my lunch duty back to teach 2 more classes, and then get my stuff together. I had to leave school a little later than I normally would, had some things I had to type at the end, and make it to this board meeting. By the time the board meeting ended last week, I was into somewhere in my 16th or 17th hour of the workday, and I'm sure that many of you were too.
Right.
But were you into that day without a lunch break? Were you into that day where you didn't have time to go to the bathroom? Were you into that day to that extent? And I appreciate you, I do. I just think there's a little bit of a disconnect. And even our, please don't be mad at me, principals, but even our principals, same thing. They probably had just as long of a day as I had last week. And then you came in and you said, "Hey, I know everybody's tired." I don't remember the exact statement, but some of them said, "Hey, we're tired, let's postpone this." And here we are on another week. And tomorrow morning, just like last week, I had that 17-hour day. I got up the next day, I went in, I did it all over again, and last day an hour and a half later, because I needed to help a student that needed some after school work. And that's where we're at. So as we're getting ready for these contracts, I know you want what's best for this district. I have no doubt. And I want you to know that I appreciate all of you. But we need you to protect our time so that, because here's the deal. You know that when the teachers are in a better place, the students are in a better place. When I'm able to take a 10-minute brain break, just like our students, I'm better able to serve them. When I get that time, so protect our time. And when you're making our calendars, think about that. Be innovative with those as well. For goodness sakes, can we just talk about that gene policy? About the gene policy. I thank you for your time, and I do appreciate what you're doing, and I just ask you to protect ours so that we can better serve our students, because I'm more stressed now than I was when I first came here, and I have the same amount of time. So what's changed? You know?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is review of 2022-23 audit findings. Dr. Paul?
Mr. Kokenauer is here to present that.
Yes, sir. Chairman, members of this board of trustees, it's always an honor and privilege to meet with you folks. We work for you. You hire us to come in and provide this audit function and this accountability. And we take that as a sacred trust. And so thank you. You hire us and we work for you. So now we're here to report for you. I on behalf of our firm. And so in one sense, there are a lot of us that work on this audit. There's several folks on our audit team. I'm just here to take credit. So I'm glad to do that. But anyway, I want to start with at the top, and that is that in our opinion, after we had finished this audit of the June 30, 2023 financial statements, in our opinion, your financial statements present fairly in all material respects. Your financial position, the results of your operations and your cash flows with all of your funds and for the year ended June 30, 2023. It's an unmodified opinion, and we came to that conclusion after we spent quite a bit of time looking at your systems. Where we begin our audit is an assessment of risk. Where are the vulnerabilities? Where do we see the risk the risk that your financial statements would not end up being fairly presented? And so we design our audit to detect material, address those material risks. We audit to the COSO model of internal control, which has 5 components. And it starts with, number 1, with the control environment, which addresses the tone at the top, which addresses the involvement of this and the awareness of this board of trustees. And so you folks set the tone, you decide the level of tolerance for deviation from standard operating procedure, and that really sets the tone for the whole control environment of the whole district. And so we assess, and we read your minutes, and we actually have come to these meetings, and we assess your involvement and your level of interest and awareness. So tone at the top, and then we look at your information communication systems. What kind of reports do you get? We look at the integrity of the reporting system and the reports and the communication that goes across your departments and the quality of the financial information there. We also look at the control activities, and that's the old-fashioned checks and balances, segregation of duties, and so on. So we take a good hard look at those issues. And then we also look at the issue of risk assessment. What types of risk assessments are your folks doing, your finance people doing on an ongoing basis? How do they assess risk from time to time that something may happen that wouldn't get caught? So we look at that. And then we also look at monitoring. The simple fact is that internal control vaporizes when you turn your head, or it can. And so it's kind of an interesting phenomenon, but is there a monitoring process? Is there follow-up to the systems and processes you have in place? And so we look at all of those things, and we in our preliminary work, we started sometime back in June, and we finished sometime around December 1. That's when the report is due, but we evaluate your systems and processes. How do you accumulate transactions and they end up in your financial report, which is, there's a lot of numbers that make that up, a lot of little numbers that add up to the total. So an audit really addresses, did every single transaction that belonged to the district during the year get in the right place? at the right time, in the right amount, and characterized properly, and described appropriately. And so all of that is involved in putting together financial statements. So we look at that. We look at all your, and we also evaluate your people, you know, and the care they take in processing these transactions, and the numbers that go into your financial statements. So we also addressed this year, you had some turnover at the top, and we addressed, you know, sometimes some things can get missed, so we paid particular attention to that area. And you had a change of the guard in your top financial officer. And we paid close attention to that. We also evaluate your IT, your computer systems and controls. We look at the design and implementation of your internal controls. Sometimes the design is right, maybe it's not working like you expect it to. So we look at both ends of that. And then you have quite a bit of federal money running through here, a little over $25 million. And so the federal government has had, and up to now, and still has a lot to say about how we conduct our audit. We audit, and especially with your federal COVID monies that they have decided are high risk for whatever reason. And they have stipulated that we perform almost a forensic audit on those numbers. So it took a little more on those particular monies. So that's what we do to get ready for preparing and do our preliminary work for the audit, to decide how much work we need to do to get you an unmodified opinion. I'll tell you that we have 3 responsibilities. Number 1, to express an opinion on your financials. Number 2 is to design the audit to detect material misstatement for whatever reason, due to fraud or whatever. And we are also required to report, as I'm doing here, to you folks. And so, if you look at your financial statements, we're also required to tell you where are the significant estimates in your financial statements. And you have 2 big estimates, and both of them are pretty much out of your control. The pension is full of estimates and projections and forecasts and actuarial studies and so on. And also the other post-employment benefit, post-retirement health care. Those are a couple of very big numbers, and they are full of estimates. And you don't have a choice as to whether you are going to participate in those. You don't have a choice as to how the money's invested. You don't have a choice in anything other than pay the bill when they send it to you. And so those are really, when you're looking at your financial statements, and I'm going to be with a group of Council of Governments folks over in Greenville in a couple of weeks, presenting the GASB issues with them, and we're going to have a guy from the GASB there, and it's going to be fun. But there's a lot of pronouncements out there, but those are a couple of them that really stick out on your financial statements, and you have to try to figure out how to manage without them. You kind of push them aside. So those are in there, and I want to also share with you that we did not get any pushback from management in providing this audit function. No difficulties in dealing with your management team. They're very cooperative, very transparent, and very helpful. We did assist with some year-end accounting and reconciliations. We did assist with some of those disclosures and adjustments from the pension and the other post-employment benefits that gave rise to some, always every year, to some significant numbers. And also with the financial statement, ultimate financial statement preparation. You have in your financial statements 3 distinct financial statement presentations. And I can tell you that GASB is looking at that format and that model again, and we can be looking forward to that. But GASB 34, you have 3 distinct financial statements. You have a budget full accrual, and all everything's put together into one column. And so that has value, but all three of those statements are reconciled one to the other in your statements. And so that is some interesting reading. But our opinion on your financial statements is unmodified. Your statements are extensive. Our opinion on your required supplemental information in there, you have a bunch of combining schedules, and then you also have a schedule of expenditures of federal awards. That is all your federal money. And our opinion on those statements are unmodified on those schedules in relation to the overall financial statements. You also have reports on compliance and on internal control and internal control over compliance. And our opinion on your compliance, which has to do with your major federal programs, your federal money, the $25 million, our opinion is unmodified on that. And so, and you're also classified as a low-risk auditee. Now, you have in your statements, and you'll see, a new GASB, Government Accounting Standards Board pronouncement that came out, that became effective this year. And it has to do with subscription-based information technology arrangements, IT arrangements, where you're leasing software. Software is an intangible asset, but it's a right to use, and so you are spending money to lease some of the software to put on your systems to run different programs and different systems in your district. And you have several of them. And so you'll see that what the new GASB number 96 that came out that was effective in these statements. And I know everybody's real excited about accounting. I know you just can't wait to hear what I'm going to say next. But it was a major inconvenience, and you can ask your folks about that. And I'll tell you it was inconvenient. But what you have to do is capitalize. You have to say, okay, here's a stream of payments, and you discount it back, and you put that asset on your books, and you put a corresponding liability for that, the payments you're going to have to make, and you have to account for that. Just like a lease. Leases came in last year. That was GASB 87. Now, just a side note here. Where did all these GASBs come from? And just, this is a little extra. Back in 1906, the Government Finance Officers Association was formed. 1906. It was a group of folks, finance directors, and government finance officers, and there were about 19,000 of them across the country, and they got together and said, we need more uniformity. And so about 1934, 35, they formed what they call the National Committee, which is now what became the National Council on Governmental Accounting. And they started putting out these official pronouncements. The whole time the American Institute of CPAs was putting them out. And then later on came the GASB in the early 80s. And so the first GASB was basically took all of that stuff that had been written and said, okay, now it's authoritative, we're going to start here. So it seems like lately there have been a lot more of these things come out and a lot more work that has to be done and a lot more, and it's strenuous. It reminds me of the great quote by Walter Matthau in that famous movie, Dennis the Menace, a crisis of this magnitude has got to be somebody's fault. Well, when you look back on it, it was us. We started it, and we have kept it going because people said, okay, why don't you fix this, why don't you address this, and the GASB gets all that information and they do the best they can with it. And they come out with some very good stuff. But in any event, your financial reporting is a major issue with your finance department, and it continues to be. And they're coming out with, now they're up to 102. I was around for number 1, and 101 came out, and it's going to be required for next year, 2025. But here we are. And so I appreciate the opportunity, Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chairman, and all of you, to meet with you. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer. Your folks did a Herculean job to get all this information into one place in one document, and we got out on time. So, any questions, we'd be glad to answer now or come back in the future. We work for you folks, yes, yes.
I have one question. Can you explain to us about the Title I? You said we withheld more than 15% and that money may have to be repaid. Is that what I read correctly here?
Yeah, and they can explain it to you.
Okay,
And Title I is typically a 2-year program,
correct.
and you're not allowed to carry over, basically, very simply, more than 15% from one year to the next, unless you get a waiver.
Right.
And somehow, with all you have going on in here with your transitions, the waiver didn't happen. It got overlooked. Is that about right?
Wasn't the waiver necessarily, the reporting of the amount wasn't done
Okay.
during the transition period.
Yeah. Okay.
So how much are we looking at possibly having to pay back?
They can ask you that.
Do you remember the exact amount? I'll get it for you. I'll get it to you.
Yes, ma'am.
I think
191. 191,000.
191,000. All right, thank you so very much. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Kokenauer, if I'm reading this correctly, and admittedly, I'm not a financial management major, but I do try to read my materials. But on page 78, I see that the net change in fund balance was $10,563,982. From your review of our financial records, why would you say that we would have that much in surplus in a year that we raise taxes?
78, that's on the budget.
No.
Yes.
It's page 78.
Yep. Okay. Why did you have that? Yes, well, that's the way the numbers fell out. Now, if you look at it, you had more revenue than was budgeted, and you spent less than you had budgeted. So those numbers combined came in your general fund.
Right.
General fund. Okay,
Right.
now, overall, it was more like 5.5, because you spent some money on hand that was there to be spent.
That's right.
Okay, but why, and they can answer, because you look at the detailed budget on down the road, I mean, the next pages. and
Right.
It'll show all the little details in there. Taxes was probably a big number.
Taxes came in a lot higher, and the other big thing too was the TAN that we did, because last year was the first year that the county wanted us to take over where they used to float us during those dry months. We didn't need that TAN as much as we thought we would.
But last year's surplus was how much, Dr. Fall? 6.4 million?
No,
No.
Is that right?
4.6.
4.6.
4.6. I have my numbers transposed. I
Yeah.
admitted that I wasn't a
Yeah.
financial
You're good.
scholar.
Yeah.
I do try.
We project, and the same thing last year, our projection of our taxes came in higher. And we don't have no way of knowing that. We always project conservatively. It's a win when it comes in higher. Because
It's
we
a
don't
win,
want
but-
it the other way.
That's exactly right. I don't want it the other way either. But I do see these dollars as monies that could have been spent in the classroom or in the district if we had known to a better degree how much to expect the revenues.
And there is no way that anybody's aware of knowing that. We get those projections from what county plans on bringing in,
Right.
and that's what we use when we create our budget at the beginning. And like I said, I mean, we're fortunate that it came in much higher, but,
I'm glad to see it on the positive side. It just seems that 10.5 million is a little excessive.
Now with the TAN,
But unless you tell me wrong.
No, listen, let me share this with you. This brings up a point.
Yeah.
Our audit is financial statement centric. In other words, we address the veracity of the statements themselves, okay? Now, all of this is interesting, and those are management issues, and they can tell you why, and your MD&A addresses some of that stuff, and have been discussion houses. But our function is to address, are these numbers reliable? Are they not necessarily correct, but are they fairly stated? Okay, now you look at it and say, okay, about $10.5 million in the general fund.
Yep.
All right, I will tell you, I'm comfortable with that because that's what the audit shows, and we look at the numbers. Okay, and so now, why did that happen?
Right.
Well, there's you had a budget, and you do a best guess, you know, about this time every year, looking at next fiscal year. Between now and June, you finalize your budget.
Yeah.
And you do that. Most governments, most governments that we work with, budget taxes a little conservatively.
Yep.
And in this county, as you know, there's a lot going on. We've got big industries leaving, we've got big industries coming in, we've got housing developments, we've got all kinds of things. And so projecting, and the county's trying to do that too. But I think
The state had a 1.5 billion
what we
surplus.
address is the financial statements and the integrity of them themselves. And then now we can ask the question, why did it go up?
Right.
You know, are those revenue numbers fairly stated? Expenses fairly stated, yes. And then again, the other, not to distract you, but the other thing that happened was that the 15 million TAN was not budgeted. That happened
Yeah, I
at
saw
the
that.
year end.
But now, would that not be just like a pass-through, like it came in, it went out? Like
Yes, and you'll see it on there. It came in, it showed up.
Yep.
Well, it shows up first in expenses, but then it shows up
Yeah.
in other sources down below.
So that was not a major factor in these
In
figures?
the 10, no, sir.
No, see,
No, you're right,
okay.
you're right, okay. So that's good.
It's just a good time to be asking these questions, I guess, as we roll into budget season, right?
Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. So what you're saying is, it would have been nice to have had it last year, you know, you got it this year,
Right.
next year.
And I guess my concern with budget season coming up, and the audit is great. I mean, we pretty much followed protocol. I mean, everything was great. Nothing we could, there's stuff we could always improve on.
It's history.
But, I mean, we've increased our millage for the past 4 years, and I mean, this year we bring in 10.5 million. That's concerning.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm concerned with that.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, bud.
I was listening, I was right. See if there's anything.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
The next item on the agenda is the underperforming school presentations, Dr. Paul.
We're gonna start with B.Lee. We talked about this before, the state requirements, and I told you they would be coming back and presenting their plans. This year is brand new where you all will vote on all those plans. So the first presentation is B.D. Lee. Dr. Jeffries. I got you right here. Dr. Dukes, are you gonna go over this part with them real quick? Just so we can reiterate the unsatisfactory, below average, underperforming, what all that means.
So the State Department classifies an underperforming school as receiving a below average or a unsatisfactory rating on the school report card. And those report cards are issued annually. And so we have 6 schools, as you can see on the PowerPoint, that were designated as underperforming. So the state requires us every year, and this is new since 2022, to identify a needs assessment of those schools and determine goals and strategies, professional development plans, and academic interventions for those schools. These plans also include a broad community input, so we seek input from school improvement councils, PTSA members, parents, and other school level colleagues. And these plans are approved by the school board every year, so that's why we're presenting now to get approval for these plans. So once these plans are approved by the board, we will submit to the state. The state will review the plans, and once the state approves the plan, all schools have to post those plans on their websites for the community to see. The state will also require the district to provide quarterly updates. Unfortunately, our first update is February 1st, and so that's our first quarterly update that we provide the state after we get the plans approved tonight. So we will give the state an update on February 1st, which is Thursday. Underperforming schools are required to work with the district, work with the school board, work with the different academic offices, all the offices in the building, to ensure that we are improving performance of all of our students in our school district. So as a district, we have a continuous improvement plan. Our goal is to, by the 2026-27 school year, to have a final academic rank of the top 25 school districts in the state of South Carolina as relates to statewide assessments in elementary, middle, and high school. And so we have some actionable strategies listed here. We have focused on 3 areas this year, and we will more than likely focus on these 3 areas moving throughout. Strengthening Tier 1 instruction, supporting professional learning communities, and providing Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports for all students. So everything that we do will fall within these 3 focus areas. We have implemented new curriculum maps, pacing guides, and instructional overlays to support instructional consistency across all of our classrooms. We've implemented benchmark assessments for our tested grades to ensure that we have some really good data to drive instruction before we give our tests in May. We also implemented learning targets in all of our schools to make sure that we're providing clear expectation of the learning. And we've implemented a new classroom observation tool that communicates instructional expectations and priorities across all classrooms in our district. We're looking at we're looking at assessing our curriculum and instructional resources. We had a public book review today for all of our K-12 English classes for next year. And so we're looking to continue to do those and get community feedback in that as well. And we're implementing professional learning communities in all of our schools in the 24-25 school year. And we've hired MTS coordinator already, and then we're looking to have instructional coaches in all of our schools to support our focus of Tier 1 instruction.
Oh, I guess Drayton is
So our first school is Drayton.
I guess they're not in order. Sorry, Doc Jeffries, you were listed first, but the PowerPoint is Draytonville first. Surprise.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, this first slide just gives an overview of our this year's data. We have increased in our scores from last year, which we're very excited about. Last year we had an overall score of 29, which had us an unsatisfactory. This year, although it says 34.28 on our school report card, it says 38. So we're going with 38. But we increased it. That's an increase of 9 points, which put us at below average. We had our highest growth in our student progress, which is the growth category. Last year we had 3.56 points out of 40. We increased that to 9.21 out of 35. So that was our biggest increase in our points, and we hope to improve that this year as well. core goals at Draytonville. Goal 1 is 100% of our teachers will participate in all professional development offered during the 23-24 school year to improve instructional practices and increase student performance. So our actionable strategies that we're going to implement is the professional development that the school district is offering through our observation tool, the COT, learning targets, instructional overlays, curriculum maps, and pacing guides, which are all district focuses and initiatives. We're going to have professional development that will focus on data from iReady and common assessments to evaluate Tier 1 instructional practices and build Tier 2 and 3 interventions for all students, which will all inform instruction. We are going to have professional development that will focus on iReady curriculum implementation and use weekly observations with feedback on practices implemented from focused professional development. So just some more notes on this. The new information and processes developed by the Curriculum Instruction Department is shared, discussed, and practiced at our school. Our Comprehensive School of Improvement, or our CSI funds that we have received from the state, they're being used to provide additional professional development with an iReady professional learning specialist that comes in and works with us. With the help of C&I, we're working to provide prescriptive feedback that will guide upcoming professional developments. And all of these strategies given will support the district's focus areas of strengthening Tier 1 instruction, supporting professional learning communities, and Tier 1 and 3 student supports. Goal 2, by the end of the 23-24 school year, 35% of all 4th grade students will score meets or exceeds on the SC Ready Science Assessment. Those actionable strategies to help support that goal would be training of new science standards and TWIG curriculum, which is the new district curriculum to increase hands-on lessons and student inquiry. We also are working with our special area teachers in their time that they have available. They push in for co-teaching of science standards to increase student engagement and provide support for hands-on lessons. So last year in 2023, we had 32.4% of our students that met or exceeded on SC Ready Science. So that our goal of 35% is a little higher. But in 2023, we had a 12% increase from the previous year, so we are making gains. We are using our CSI funds to partner with the Spark Ridge Science Center. They're offering at-location programs to help support our science standards. Actually, tomorrow, they're coming for 5K in 4th grade for an Animals and Adaptations program, and we have many upcoming programs scheduled, so we're hoping bringing them in and working with our students will help to increase their excitement and knowledge of supporting those standards. Since writing this goal, the South Carolina Department of Education released on January 9th that the South Carolina Ready Science South Carolina Ready Science Waiver and the 23-24 accountability. And what that waiver and accountability says is that grade 4 students will be required to take the SC Ready Science Assessment, but the results will not be reported or weighted in the Prepared for Success section of the school's report card. So they will take the assessment, but those 10 points will be weighted in the academic achievement section of our reports. All right, goal 3. 100% of staff will attend SEL, which means social emotional learning, professional development, and implement best practices in all classrooms. So those actionable strategies that we have to support that goal is professional development of trauma-informed practices, and we will be a Song to Grow pilot for the 24 spring semester. This goal was developed because we acknowledge that many of our students have many social emotional needs that affect their ability to learn. So with that, in November, I asked, with the help of Ms. Westmoreland, we had mental health first aid training delivered by one of our district school psychologists and a school counselor. They came in and provided some work information and some background knowledge on mental health first aid for students. So after that training, our teachers were very receptive and wanted to know more about strategies on how to support those mental health needs that our students have. So because of that, and conversations and things we were having, Sheldon Clinton, which is our new MTSS coordinator for the district, and Miss Westmoreland, they approached Draytonville about being a possible pilot for the new SEL program, and it's called Song to Grow. And what this program does, it's an online program that allows faculty and staff to easily engage with students through check-ins and personalized feedback. It also provides lessons that will help us to connect more with students' social emotional health. So last Wednesday, we had our first virtual training with a Song to Grow expert, and we will very soon we'll be implementing that in our classroom. So I'm excited when I come back in March to present, to have some things that have hopefully grown from that and things that we have seen to positively impact our students. So we're excited to see what the Song to Grow program will bring to our students and how to further support them. So stay tuned. Goal 4 is that by the end of May of 2024, 65% of students in grades 3 through 5 will meet their typical growth in reading, measured by iReady diagnostics. So our actionable strategies are all students will receive targeted reading instruction. Teachers will serve them in small reading groups, and that we would employ one interventionist to serve reading interventions for students in grades 3 through 5 using phonics for reading, which is also an iReady program. So at the completion of our winter diagnostic, we currently have 32% of our students that have already met their typical growth. So we're halfway there. Using our iReady's Explore instructional groupings and tool for instruction, along with teacher observations and data, we're able to provide differentiated instruction to students. Using our CSI funds, we were able to hire an amazing retired teacher from North Carolina with a background in reading and working with small groups. Our fall, that we chose that because our fall iReady data revealed that many of our students in grades 3, 4, and 5 had deficiencies in phonics, which are the building blocks of reading. So Ms. Bernadette works with 36 students in small groups every single day to help them strengthen their phonics skills. And we are already seeing lots of progress with this additional intervention. So that's exciting news that I look forward to when she turns in the data every week. So those are our goals at Draytonville, and we look forward to continuing those goals. So thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Sullivan before we move on with the one?
Ms. Sullivan, I know I've been there your school last year, I haven't been there this year yet. You still have your amazing data wall.
Yes, ma'am.
That's amazing.
It's new and improved too.
Awesome. Awesome. I will. I love the visuals.
Good evening. What you see on the screen is our school report card from the current year. And I'm excited to say that we have grown. We're not where we used to be, and we're not where we want to be, but we are definitely growing, and I'm so excited about the progress that my students are making. Last school year, our overall score was a 29, and as you see currently, we're at 37.46, which is an increase of 8.46 points. Our two highest areas of growth were in academic achievement. We increased 1.44 points, and for student progress, we increased 6.15 points, moving from unsatisfactory in that particular category to average. So that is to be celebrated.
Yes.
Our first goal, and I've been I have a transformation coach through the State Department by being a CSI school, and I've been working with her last school year as well as the current school year. I'm also part of the iReady principal cohort, where I have a consultant that comes in monthly and meets with me. We go over data, we look at the progress that our students are making in iReady. At the beginning of the year, we sat down and we triangulated the data from our iReady data to SC Ready data. We looked at those students that had regressed, and we put in a plan. So as you see, there are actions. Our goal is that our students will increase 23.4% to 33.5% by the end of the 2024-25 school year in the ELA. And what we did, working together and looking at that data, we created 3 tiers for our student. We looked at every individual student, because before we looked at, let's look at 3rd grade, let's look at 4th grade, but we pinpointed and we looked at every individual student in our building. And so we identified 3 tiers: an achieve, a rise, and a regression. And our achieve students, they receive push-in intervention. I have 2 reading interventionists. One is paid out of Title I, and one is paid out of CSI funds. One focuses on primary, one focuses on intermediate. And so the achieve students, they receive that push-in intervention. And those rise students, those students that have the potential to score meets or exceeds on this SC Ready test, they receive pull-out intervention. And then those students who regressed and fell back, that they were receiving intervention from their classroom teacher. And so the reading interventionists attend grade level meetings with the teachers, and they assist in the planning and instruction so that they're all on the same page and providing and meeting the needs of our students there. And so they assist in determining, when I have those meetings with the iReady consultant monthly, those interventionists and my reading coach are there participating in that meeting with me and providing input as to students that we need to move around. We just finished, because we had our winter iReady data come in, we had a lot of students that we were able to move out, that they no longer need the intervention, and we're able to push those students in that need the intervention. So I'm, again, very proud of where we are and where we're going. Our second goal is focusing in on math, where we're going to increase from 12.4% scoring meets or exceeds to 22.4%. And you heard Dr. Duke speak of the things that we're doing within the district. And we're currently working closely with our curriculum and instruction department. We're working on our learning targets. We're using those classroom observation tools, the learning walks, the instructional rounds. I just had a big PLC meeting where I had a consultant to come in from Charlotte, and along with the transformation coach, to present our teachers and train them in data and actually how to analyze the data and use that data to drive their instruction. And then we're also going to be using the data that we get from our benchmarks to help monitor and adjust instruction. And those are my 2 goals.
Thank you, Dr. Holmes.
Any quick questions for Dr. Holmes? Next up, Northwest Elementary. Mr. Atkins.
Thank y'all for having me. I sent out an email, but apparently they didn't get the memo to wear Northwest shirts. Greedy Lee shirts. I appreciate you being here for us.
You're wrong.
I unfortunately don't have the same, don't get to share the same excitement and the growth. It's super big shout out to you two for the growth. Unfortunately, Northwest, we fell behind overall in the entire category. I'm talking through a little bit of that with you. 42 is the average line. We performed at 44 the year prior to me coming, and then this year we went down to 40. So that little knocked us down right outside of the average range. The one thing that I'm super confident about and feel really, really good about is the area of focus that I had last year was on school culture and climate, and we moved from average to excellent, 2 categories up and down. So all I said this year is our focus is on instruction, moving that piece, making sure we look at our data and figure out what the points are that we need to look at, and that's what we've done. Love the new learning targets, love the pacing guide, because that's one of the points, and I'll talk through that if you want to go ahead and go to the first one. I'll probably get to those points before I get ahead of myself. So we'll look at goal number 1 during the 23-24 school year, percentage of students meeting exceeding expectations. In the fourth grade, math will increase from 22% in the spring to 32% in the spring of 2023 to 2024. Math has been a big hit since COVID. Reading's kind of closed the gap back. Math has left a bigger gap open since COVID happened. Fourth grade is a big hit, not just in my school, but across the district and really across the state. So I've got 2 new fourth grade teachers that came to my building this year out of 3. So that's one of our focuses, is that grade level. A couple of these are some of the same things that some of my colleagues have spoken of. We got an interventionist that began in October, and then I've got another interventionist beginning this coming Monday to help out with our current fourth grade, and the interventionist that we have from October has been working with our previous fourth grade, who are in our current 5th grade this year. That's about it for that. And then those are talking about continuing with PLCs that we'll do not just with our 4th grade, but with our other grades as well. Goal number 2, during the 23-24 school year, students who met their typical growth goal in our ready math diagnostic will improve from 47.5 to 57.5. So again, that's focusing on the math, and this expands across to our entire all grades, our 5K through 5th grade. So our 5K through 2nd, all these we're monitoring through iReady. But obviously for our older grades, 3rd through 5th, we're looking at SE Ready as well for those. Again, looking at the data, I've met with my leadership team, and we've had several PLCs, and this is stuff that we've kind of started since day one, before we began to write this plan, so it's kind of easy to write out and to maintain some of the things that we're doing. But we're continuing with PLCs, working with teachers. We've had them compare assessments, because one of the biggest pieces is, hey, are we assessing the exact same way in each class? Are we knowing that, are you grading the same way compared to this? And math is a toughie, because we brought some math assessments together to say, hey, when we're looking at this stuff, sometimes we give grades that are based on, like, well, I'll give partial credit. Well, my question to teachers is, how are we choosing partial credit? Are they mastering the standards that we can still justify, hey, if they miss a couple careless errors here and there, that they still get 70-80% accuracy to show they've shown mastery of that? Or are they just randomly saying, if you miss a little bit, I'm taking off 2. If you miss a little bit, I'm taking off 5. So we've worked through, that's been super eye-opening and really good for them to kind of see that data and to say, hey, how are these things working in your room? How are you instructing things differently compared to this teacher whose students got, 9 out of 10 of her kids understood and mastered this one question, but only 3 out of 10 of yours did. So that's kind of meetings that we're having, PLCs and faculty meetings, to go over some of those common assessments. Next one. Goal number 3, SE Ready Group subcategory for students with disabilities will improve from 23.3% to 28.3%. This is one that we're being for ATSI, that create a plan specific for our special education students. These are some of the ones that we worked through. A lot of the PLCs and stuff that we have, grade level based, is hard because the special education teachers come in as they kind of fit in with the grades. So what we've done is kind of created twice that we can meet. I can meet with my self-contained teacher along with my resource teachers individually to talk through some of theirs instead of having to squeeze them in with our grade level PLCs. Looking for mainstreaming opportunities for our students, especially in our self-contained class, who don't get the same curriculum, to make sure they're having mainstream opportunities in general education classes, that they're getting exposed to that curriculum and those standards that they're going to be tested on whenever they go to take SE Ready this spring. Visualizing and Verbalizing is a reading program. If you've never heard of it, I'm looking at Bessie. I highly suggest this. It's a program I used when I was in Spartanburg 2, which is phenomenal. It's a lot of talking, it's a lot of picturing, and students get to talk a lot more and kind of explain through. So we're going to purchase a couple of those programs with the money that I think we just got in for ATSI, for those special education classes to have, and really for any of our classes for RTI or MTSS that they can utilize. But it is a phenomenal program, and you really don't have to have the program. Like I can have like 2 or 3 kits in the entire school, and it's just the style of how you instruct. So that's what's nice about it. You don't have to buy a kit for every single teacher. They can kind of use whatever resources that I have available once they understand the program. And my last goal, and that's my last goal. Any questions?
I do have a question. It's not just for you, for the other principals that's presented before as well. I do believe it takes a village to raise a child, and I know I solely believe that the parents of their children's most important teacher. Does any school have any programs partnering with parents to help improve the scores individually with their kids, or does anybody have anything partnering with the parents?
They all do. I'll speak for all of them in general. Like, was it Thursday or Friday? What night was that? Thursday night I went out to BD Lee. They had a literacy for parents night.
Okay.
And all the teachers that were there, the rooms that were set up, every room was around literacy.
Okay.
So the kid and the parent went in together and did some literacy activities together and had fun with it.
Okay.
So that's one example where they were reaching out to the community, the parents, and trying to get them involved. All of them do various things throughout the year. If you wanted to go through each one of them and talk about them individually, they could do that, but every school does different times. And I always try to encourage for them to try and do more, because our whole goal is to build that relationship so that that parent is involved and they can be a part of that success of that kid. Because if they're not involved, we know the recipe's failure.
That's why I asked.
So we definitely try to work towards that.
I'll speak into mine real fast. I can't speak for the other principals, but we've always had a hard time getting parents in when we've had academic focused programs. So this year we have combined our book fair night. We have our 5K, first grade, second grade music programs. So February 15th, we're having a literacy night, book fair night, music program night. And so they have times and rotations that they'll be exposed to the curriculum that we have. They'll do activities with their kids. We'll send books home with them. Some of our Title I money, we'll be sending those books home along with feeding the parents and the faculty, or the parents and the students. So hopefully that'll get them, more of them in here, because most of them come for our music programs. And they're there for a 20, 25-minute program, and then they're out. And I try to get my 2-cent plug in while they're there. But this is a good opportunity for us to get it done all in one go.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, BD Lee, you're up now, Dr. Jones.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
First of all, I would like to thank my staff members who are here on this evening, because we have worked very hard together as a team, our staff members as well as our parents, to build this particular continuous improvement plan. So I just wanted to make sure that I thank you all for coming on tonight. I really appreciate that. Okay, so taking a look at our test scores, just like, Mr. Atkins mentioned, it's disheartening whenever you find that your school takes a drop. And looking at our test scores, our overall score rating for this year is at 31.05, which puts us at unsatisfactory. Now, last year, the previous year, our school, we were at 34 points, which was considered below average, which means that we actually dropped at about, maybe 3 points. Even though unsatisfactory is not a good position to be in, I will say that the drop could have been a lot worse than what it was. So even though we dropped 3 points, we have put a plan together, an improvement plan, that we would like for the board to consider to approve, so that we can increase our test scores. I've informed the staff, and I motivate the staff, and I motivate our students to let them know, just because our rating is considered unsatisfactory, we're not going to remain unsatisfactory. Our scores will increase. Our vision is to move from expectations to execution, because that's exactly what our school's going to do. We're going to pull our test scores up. And this is our plan that we are presenting to you tonight as the first step as far as improving our test scores. BD Lee Elementary School will increase SC Ready, ELA, and math scores by 5% in 3rd and 5th grades by the end of the 2024-25 school year. So now going back to, if you don't mind, Dr. Ball, if you can just go back, thank you. That's our academic achievement right there, the 8.93. That consists of our ELA scores and our math scores. The year prior to that, we were at 7.45. So we did have an increase in regards to our ELA and our math. We did increase that by 1.48, but we're gonna celebrate whatever percentage we increase. So also with the other, you can go, okay, thank you, Dr. Ball. In regards to our preparing for success, which is actually the science scores, we did have a drop in regards to that, and we realized where our weakness was in regards to the science. Because we didn't bring in enough inquiry and we didn't bring in enough hands-on. So this year, we have already started incorporating, bringing in hands-on activities and also making sure that we are incorporating more inquiry skills. I have already spoken with a retired teacher who has already dedicated herself to come in and work with our teachers in regards to science to help us to increase those scores. Because when she was teaching in Cherokee County, she did a phenomenal job with science. And as Ms. Sullivan mentioned about how the state has made a change in regards to the science, to where even though our students are going to be tested, we're not going to receive an actual rating, but however, our increase is going to come in with the ELA and math, which means that yes, we're going to have to be at the top of our game because that's going to increase the score ratings now for ELA and math. In regards to student progress, that's where you look at the growth of your students. And as you all recall, back in 2020-21, we did have a consolidation to where we did consolidate B.D. Lee and we did with Mary Bramlett, which I'm very grateful of. However, I want us to be mindful that within that particular growth, we're looking at two schools that were combined together with test scores. B.D. Lee originally was at below average. Mary Bramlett was originally at unsatisfactory. So when we combine those scores and then you start looking at growth, even though we haven't achieved as much growth, we are achieving some growth. In regards to our school climate, it dropped just a little bit. We were at 6.78 last year, but this year we were at 6.73, so I feel very confident that we're definitely going to increase that particular score for the upcoming school year, as well as the scores in the other areas. Okay, Dr. Paul. So going back to this particular slide here, so what's our game plan as far as with this goal to where we're going to increase the 5%? And I changed that so that you could see what that percentage would actually be. It's not on this particular slide. I don't know if you all received the new slide or not, but with that particular 5%, based off of that 5% in ELA and math should be enough as long as everything else remains steady. And we also can have some improvements in other areas. That should be able to move us out of that unsatisfactory area. So looking at how are we going to actually do this, we're looking at providing professional development for teachers to create that roadmap that Dr. Dukes talked about with the learning targets, the curriculum maps, pacing guides, and the overlays. Our reading coaches are already working with teachers in regards to what this looks like. Our C&I department are working with us as far as what should this look like. Our teachers are continuously planning, trying to make sure that we're implementing the best instructional strategies for our students so that all of our students can be successful. Looking at monthly professional development on how to implement OG, Orton Gillingham, a program that's geared towards phonics. And our teachers, they attended a training this past summer and they loved it. And so being an administrator, I said, you know, I want to make sure I know what's going on in the classrooms when I'm in the classrooms. So I went ahead and I enrolled. While everybody probably were out doing their Black Friday shopping, I was at home doing OG training. But I wanted to make sure that I know exactly what training is being provided so that I will know how to best meet the needs to help support my teachers and my students. Provide also the state literacy coach and administrators and literacy coaches Of course, we're conducting weekly, instead of calling it literacy walks, I like to call them inspirational walks. So that we're going into the classrooms to see the great things that are going on, so that we can share it with the staff, so that teachers have an opportunity to be able to go and observe their peers, so that they can see what they're doing in the other classrooms. Then also providing teachers with the opportunities to observe successful performing schools, whether it's inside this district or outside the district. You can always learn from someone else. And a lot of times, it's probably even better to go outside your district so that you can see what all is going on, so that you can bring it back to see if there's a possibility that it's going to work at your school. By the end of 2024-25, 100% of teachers will participate in monthly data meetings to discuss and track student growth as evident by sign-in sheets and data notebooks. Our teachers, along with the school leadership team, we're already collaborating with vertical planning. So in regards to the vertical planning, what does that look like? That looks like all of our teachers from kindergarten through 5th grade talking about the instruction, talking about what they're actually teaching in the classrooms and how it connects and how we need to make sure that we're preparing those students for each grade level. Also, we're looking at data analysis to make sure that it has the right impact on classroom instruction. All teachers in pre-K through 5th grades will implement a daily 25-minute recover intervention model. And that recover stands for reteach every child on vivid, engaging, rigorous materials. Each morning, our students report to their classrooms at 7:30. Our teachers are there readily available to make sure that we are providing intervention. Because we know that Tier 1 instruction is very important, and we know that 80% of our students are not actually receiving all of that Tier 1 instruction. So therefore, we have an additional intervention that's in place every morning so that we can provide that extra intervention for our teachers so that students are able to be able to learn what they didn't get from that particular previous day. And then also small grouping, making sure that we're providing small groups within the classroom to make sure that we're providing instruction for smaller groups for students to be able to understand the content. Also provide monthly iReady professional development for the administrators, coaches, teachers to track data. With iReady, there's so much to learn in iReady. So we need a consultant to come in to help us to be able to navigate as far as how we can actually use this data to best drive the instruction for our students. Goal 3, by 2024-2025, 100% of our teachers will be exposed to the social and emotional learning and development strategies for positive interactions with all stakeholders. I listed a very important one for the first one, which is reduce classroom sizes. There's some research that supports smaller classroom sizes, and then there's some research that doesn't. However, at BD Lee, my staff and I, we know that smaller classroom sizes works for us. We're in a position where we're at unsatisfactory. In order to help us to get out of unsatisfactory, we're respectfully asking that you all will consider as far as allowing us to have lower sizes, classroom sizes, so that we can help provide the instruction, the best Tier 1 instruction for our students, so that we can make sure that we pull our scores out of unsatisfactory. Implement a social and emotional curriculum for preschool, that's 3K through 5K. That's something that's so very important with our younger, smaller children, because they struggle daily with a lot of social and emotional skills. And not only the younger students, but the upper students as well. But if we can start with the lower students first, then that way it'll help us as far as when the students are moving up to the upper grades. And this is something, Ms. Shippey, that you had mentioned, of course, about establishing whole school community support. We're actually working with one of our parents who's a pastor, who's getting ready to start a mentoring program at BD Lee for our males and our females. And whenever we had our principal for a day, there was a youth pastor who reached out to me. Of course, I was trying to recruit all the pastors and everybody else there to come to our school to help out. So he's one, and then we're also reaching out to other community leaders in our district to come in and to help us. We have even posted on our Facebook page about volunteers wanted in regards to coming in to help. We've received 2, which is great, because 2 is better than none. Because as you said, it takes a village to raise a child, and so we need as much support as we can get to help support our students, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that that happens. Also, I'm going to go to the last one, empowering staff to be a positive social and emotional learning cultures through the use of positive behavior support system. We do have PBIS, which is working great this year so far. Last year, we couldn't get it off the ground running as much, but this year, we have formed a committee, and they are working very hard to make sure that we're providing incentives for our children in order to make sure that we can provide them with opportunities so that we can improve not only the behavior in the classroom, but the behavior school-wide. So I think that completes all of our goals, but just in closing, I would also like to say that I hope that you all will consider also the request, the proposal that Dr. Dukes has presented in regards to the instructional coaches, because I do know that BD Lee can benefit greatly from having an additional one. And so I just want to say thank you for your time, thank you for your support, and if you have any questions, I'm here ready to answer.
Thank you, Dr. Jeffries. Before we move on to Gaffney Middle, I do want to recognize our staff one more time and tell them what a great job they did with the parent literacy night. I had a blast when I came out, and they did it. They did a great job.
Good evening, how everybody doing?
Good evening.
Our first goal for Gaffney Middle School is not have to stand before you next year. To move forward. I say that because we was 1 point away from not being on this list. The other principals haven't stayed this, but in regards to the report card, it's a moving target. The scores that may be average, above average, excellent, it's not the same every year. And so we are shooting at a moving target. The 3 goals that we have this year, they will impact, we think, each category. With our academic achievement, we did go up in ELA, we did take a dip in math and with our science, which is preparing for success. But to keep that into context, some things that happened at Gaffney Middle School, we had over 8 teachers that was out over 8 weeks for some medical reasons. So those are things that are out of our control. And we know when you don't have the classroom teacher who is the expert, that does kill the instruction in the classroom. So those are some things that did hurt us majorly as far as the academic piece. But again, we did go up in ELA and things of that nature. Go ahead, Dr. Our first goal is 100%. We're looking to implement common formative assessments across each grade level in each content area. That's going to give us a strong data piece across the board. We have over 44 content teachers, and if we have teachers that we don't want teachers working in silos, but they're just creating their own tests and things of that nature. And so we can't have a good conversation in our PLCs about where we are, whether it has to do with mastery of content, standards, and things of that nature. So we're going to create those, implement those. Our district have implemented the benchmarks, and we do have our I-ready piece, but these common formative assessments gives us something on a weekly or bi-weekly time frame to give us some data that we can talk about, make some data-driven decisions in each grade level. So we're going to provide some professional development with that, looking at solution trees. Specifically, they are experts when it comes to PLCs and cognitive assessments and things of that nature. We're going to focus on the instructional overlays and our curriculum maps that our C&I department has laid out this year, which has been wonderful to put us all on the same page as well. And by doing this, we hope to increase the capacity our teachers. And we're going to do this and monitor this through our classroom observation tool, which is the COT, our learning walks that we do with our CNI team, and through our PLCs that we've implemented in the last couple of years. The next goal is for us to increase our the climate survey, increase that by 3 points. And a couple things that we're going to do on that is we're going to improve communication with our new communication tool that we use. We utilize that a lot. I like that because we're able to implement and add PDFs and pictures, so we're able to really get messages out to our parents in a great way. We also utilize our Facebook heavily this year, but next year we want to also include some monthly newsletter, digital monthly newsletter, so parents and stakeholders can see what we're doing on a long range standpoint, and also help get our website more user-friendly. We've heard some feedback from parents and things that it's not as user-friendly as it could be, so we're going to look at some things that we can do to incorporate and enhance that as well. Ms. Schiff, you talked about some things to get some people in. As far as parents and things of that nature, we have a high population of Hispanic and multi-language learning students, so we're going to try to implement some things next year for our Spanish Heritage Nights, fall festivals, the Avid Nights, and hopefully get our parents in. You know, it's tough here in Cherokee County to get those parents in, especially at the middle school. They come for ball games. A lot of times they want to come for this. So we got to get creative. Even talking with some of our teachers, even at our ball games, talking at halftime and get some things. So trying to, they'll come out for food sometimes. So just trying to be creative in that aspect to get parents out, to see what's going on, to get their information to them, and even going to some of our housing developments that feed into us, going to those community centers and setting up shop and hopefully drawing some of those. With our climate survey this year, I was happy that it went up a lot in the student category. If you look at, and it breaks it down to multiple things, but if you look at one of the biggest dip that we took was the social and the physical climate of our school, especially with our teachers and our students. They scored very low, and that's some stuff that I know as a board, you guys tried to take care of with the referendum. Unfortunately, we didn't get the results that we wanted, but that does hinder us and hurts us a lot. Right now in my building, I have 0 open classrooms right now. Every room in the building is taken up in some type of capacity. And like she talked about classroom sizes, that hurts us as well because we don't have a lot of space because of the amount of students that we have in the small building. But those type of things play a direct effect in our report card. But we did make this goal because we think that doing some of these things can directly affect it in a positive way as well. The next goal is for math achievement, go up by 6%. Last year, we was right at 19% of proficiency with that or exceeds, and that's not where we want to be. Again, just math alone, I think we had 3 teachers that went out for either 8 weeks or more. We're really focusing on some of our subgroups, whether they're students of poverty, African American students, that we can impact. We're going to create a math support elective class where we're going to look at those subgroups and put some of those students in that support class, and we're going to focus on some of the fundamentals of math because they're lacking those fundamental skills you need. Because if we're teaching 6th and 7th grade math, but they don't have the fundamental skills, you can't teach grade level. Right. And COVID has really impacted that a lot. And also we're going to, through Title I, we hope to add a math interventionist that can do some pull-out and some push-ins also to impact those students that are struggling. And just on, I think next week, we plan on starting an after-school program where we can target about 20 kids for ELA and math that we can target to get some of those foundation skills as well. But math is one of our biggest ones, and also I know the district is trying to get those instructional coaches help directly with our teachers. So with the math interventionists and the support, we're going to focus on our students, but with the coach, we can help focus on our teachers to help build that capacity as well. So we're trying to attack that at all different areas. Those are our 3 goals at Gaffney Middle School. If I can answer any questions, I'll be glad to. I thank you guys for y'all support, and anytime you want to stop by the school, I invite any of y'all to come by and and see what's going on in Gaffney Middle. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, so I'm here to talk about Gaffney High School. Last year was my first year as principal at Gaffney High. And so I'm not used to being in this position. I'll be completely honest with you. When I went to Gaffney Middle School, it was a below average school. Immediately we kind of turned that school around, and so that's what we're trying to do at Gaffney High School right now. As we move forward to talk about our goals, you'll notice the academic achievement period for success and graduation rate for our main targets within that. So, Dr. Paul, if you'll go on to the next slide. By the end of the 24-25 school year, Gaffney High will raise academic achievement as defined by the SC report card. This will be indicated by a 6% increase in English 2 and Algebra 1 EOC scores. So if you're not familiar, at the high school level, the academic achievement portion are these two tests, the English 2, EOC, and Algebra 1. So that is a test that occurs at the end of the class that counts 20% of their total grade for that class. So within that, how are we going to get there? So the practices down below, PLCs, one thing that we tried to do this year was to, in our PLCs, we meet it by department. So I think Mr. Atkins was talking earlier about, how grading can be dependent upon the teacher, but in actuality, it's not just the grading, it's the content itself. If Ms. Shackelford is terrible at 1- or 2-step equations and teaching that.
Yeah, I am.
Right?
It's fair
But
to
Ms.
take.
Shippey is fantastic and gets all these results. And what is she doing to make that better, right? So it's those conversations that happen within that. Personalizing already pathways for Algebra 1. One thing that as principal at Gaffney Middle School, iReady was invaluable for us as far as growing students. The problem is iReady runs out after their 9th grade year. But at the high school level, when you have kids that are honors level, things like that, they test out of iReady. But those lower to middle level students, we've got to use that better for their pathways to increase those scores. Implement Read 180. Right now we have Lit Ready, which does not have a curriculum with it. Read 180 provides that pathway for an English portion to help those lower achieving students in reading and understanding the content that comes along with that. Schedule highly effective teachers to teach Algebra 1 and English 2. So within the strategy of, obviously at the high school level, you're bound by the content of what you can teach, what your degree is in. So at the high school level, obviously that limits, I can't move somebody from English to teach math because that's not their certification area and we would get dinged on that. But by putting teachers that are veteran teachers that can get what I feel like are better scores for our students, we just have to be strategic in planning that. So within that, one of the things that we are doing is offering incentives to try to sweeten the pot for teachers to teach those courses. So I'm going to give you a couple of numbers. So this is kind of hot off the press, okay?
Just to clarify, Dr. Blanton, out of Dickens' money.
Yes, this is Dickens' money. So Gaffney High School, yeah, let me clarify that. So Gaffney High School is
I knew
that.
I knew it was Dickens' money.
But one thing that I talked to the teachers about, Ms. Galvin was on staff there back when I first started at Gaffney High School, and it just seems like year after year after year, we just get the same scores all the time. So, I think it's Einstein that said insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and hoping for a different result. So this year we offered incentives to staff members that taught these courses. So we're going to talk about 4 of those courses over the course of this. Here's my numbers. On average for English 2, over the last 3 years, Gaffney High School has averaged a 51.5% passage rate for the English 2 EOC. Now, this is just a small sample, but in the fall semester, our passage rate was 65.6%. In math, Algebra 1, so if you think about the progression of how students go through school, your upper level kids are going to take Algebra 1 in in middle school.
Right.
As of right now. But, so, when they get to the high school, we have the rest of the students that take that test. Our average passage rate for the last several years has been 20.4%. This year is 24, in the fall semester, 24%. So an increase in both, so not 6% in algebra, but 15% in English from the fall semester. And we hope that transitions to the spring semester as well. Next slide. So same thing with U.S. history and biology. Those are not the academic achievement, but the other goals. So, but the other two EOC courses. So once again with the PLCs, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? The Freyer model is just a way of using vocabulary and how that builds vocabulary, and that's within the other two as well. Once again, scheduling the highly effective teachers. Last year at Gaffney High School, we had 3 science classes that were taught via a TV screen. This year we have 3 in-person people doing it, although they're brand new and did major in a teaching program. They have the degrees in those fields. So which I think, we've got to teach them how to teach, but at the same point, we have to nurture and build them up to help get those scores that we want. Those classes, the science specifically, those classes, there's a general science certification, you can major in chemistry, you major in biology, and then you have to stay in those areas. So it's a little bit tougher within the science component to get the teachers to go into those different areas, okay? Graduation rate, 3% increase. Now, all these are 24, 25 things, but it's not like I'm waiting until 24, 25 to start, right? We're starting on now. So this past fall, I hired a consultant because the one thing that we need is time, and I need somebody to help us with data. So I hired a consultant to do that. So he has helped us target specific students as to where we are with our non-GR cohort that is supposed to graduate this year. If everything stays the same as to what it is right now, our graduation rate will increase by 4% this year. So within that, we put in a program for second chance graduation. Right now we have 7 students in that. Now that's not these are kids that have trouble. They're in trouble academically, discipline-wise, and in the past maybe have been given up on. But we put them in edgenuity, credit recovery type courses to help them with that, to try to help get them out, because we are the last stop before they move on, whether it's post-secondary, work, military. We have to do everything to exhaust everything in our power to get them home. Address chronic absenteeism. When I first came to Gaffney High School, one of the things that I did is I met with any teacher or any staff member that wanted to meet with me of what's wrong with Gaffney High, what can we do to fix it, right? So I've been down this road before, and I don't think you change everything at once, right? You do things incrementally. But, you know, one of the direct reflections of our report card is the fact kids don't come to school like they used to pre-COVID. And there has to be accountability for those students. So we had kids last year, the F8 classes, because they just didn't come to school. I think they see now that the rubber hits the road with that. And so hopefully with these increases in the things that we've seen, that will continue to do that. Increased stakeholders' involvement in public school, improvement incentives. I talked about the incentive for teachers this Thursday for those kids that scored a C or higher on the end of course exams. They're going on an incentive trip to the Big E. They can go laser tag, bowl, movie, whatever. Dickens is paying for it. So, but anyway, so the next thing, we will implement a program, a school within a school, trying to create a smaller environment. This goes directly to the question that you were talking about earlier. What are we doing to get people into our buildings, right? You were there Saturday night in Cherokee. A lot of you come to football games, big crowds, right? But they're the day-to-day grind, they don't necessarily come. So I went to a conference back in the fall semester, Blue Ribbon Schools, which we had them come in and evaluate our school. And one of the sessions that I went to was a school similar in size to Gaffney High School, but a little bit smaller, about 100 less kids. But they put, if you're familiar with Harry Potter, and even if you're not, they have little houses within the schools. And so the premise of this is to create the houses within the schools, but obviously we dictate them more towards our school mascot and themes. And have contests taking place constantly. Some of the things, so obviously when I talked to the person down there, he said, we have a great soccer program at our school. He said, but there may be kids that like soccer, but if they're not good at it, they can't participate. So we have all these kids in our school, with a large school, right, that are back in the shadows of the school. And so what we're trying to do is implement this program in which it brings them to the light. And so each house will have about 200 kids in. There are things from drawing contests, cupcake contests, improv nights, all of these, and athletics. And it all culminates with house games is what they call it. That as we move forward with our ideas, we'll call it something different. But they said they have tremendous community support with that. And so with all of the different types of activities that we're planning to implement, getting folks involved in those things, having parents come in, tons of different stuff. So I'm hoping that that will help with that.
Any questions for Dr. Blanton?
I must say one other thing. Talking about getting things better. Credit recovery, because I mentioned that just a little bit. In the fall semester, we had 54 total credits recovered. Of those 54, 22 were in credit recovery for kids that had failed a course, and 32 were in initial credit. So if you think about that, as far as the numbers, 54, that's over 2 full kids of their entire high school career getting credits back. Okay?
Does that include the second chance
Yes, ma'am,
students?
they're
Those are the
numbers.
ones?
Yes, that's part of those that are in, it's
Okay.
not all, but it's part.
Are those seniors? Is the second chance program?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
You're hoping to be
focused,
seniors.
We're focused on those seniors
Okay.
Graduation rate.
to try to get them there. And not just for the graduation rate, but just, I mean, I ran into one at Walmart who basically stopped doing anything. Then I talked to him, he came to school the next day, we got updated phone numbers, and he is doing
Good.
Right,
so
just to keep them involved.
everyone counts.
Everyone deserves a second
counts.
chance.
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
And finally, the funding sources for these plans include priority funds, CSI money, federal funds, Title I, and previously allocated general funds money. So we're asking tonight to meet the resource and equity requirements from the state to have instructional coaches in all of our schools to ensure that we continue with the good work that's going on in our schools already and not slip back. Because we do not want any additional schools on this list next year. We actually don't want any schools on the list. So we want to make sure that we are strategically putting things in place to support our schools. Any questions?
So maybe that's a question for Dr. Fall. So that would be in our, something we would need to address now or put in our budget for next year or what?
If you vote this plan through without making any accommodations to it, you're voting to have those coaches. So we will have to build
Next
them.
year? Now?
For next
year.
school year,
Okay.
not now. We can't get them now. Most of those are gonna come out of the classroom. The reason that we need it approved now is because most of those are gonna come from the classroom, which means then those principals are gonna have to go out and replace them.
Right.
And we need to get those posted as soon as possible so we can get candidates before they're gone.
So how many are we thinking?
We want one in every school, but if you all start with at least the 6 right now, that's a good start. But we want it eventually where every school has one. I'm very hopeful and very positive that all of our schools are going to improve because we have spent a lot of time together as groups, as individuals. They would come and meet with Dr. Dukes, they had conversation with me, with various other folks, and they have really, every school dug into their data real deep. They have really looked at where they missed certain points and opportunities. Some prime examples, some survey stuff that, like, one of the schools just didn't hit, the state had an 80%, you had to hit 80% of your kids take it, they didn't hit it. That's an easy fix. You're in control of those kids. Everybody's got to take it today, you know. So things like that, they really dug in. So I'm hopeful. I know a couple schools had some great gains and do need celebrated, without a doubt. They've done a great job. But I'm hopeful and positive that all the schools that are here tonight will improve. Whether or not they improve high enough, we don't know, because that mark does move every year. A 34 may get you in the average next year. It may get you in unsatisfactory. We don't know. So I'm hopeful no matter what, they are all going to improve. Whether or not they come out of the category, we'll have to wait and see where that target line ends.